And since you're on the air now, I'd like to hear what you have to say about this. I guess one way they can try to improve the on-track product is bringing this Supercars final system that we just talked about last Wednesday night on Grid Tonight, which is the Supercars version of the playoffs. So Ben, if you wanted to give your thoughts on the Supercars playoffs format that they've come up with, and we still don't really know how the bonus point situation is going to work. I think that's their version of the playoff points and all of that. So just really interested to hear what you have to say about this playoff system coming to Supercars. And we know the Bathurst 1000 is the great race of Australia. And next year is not just going to be the Bathurst 1000. It's also going to be a cutoff race, the regular season finale before we go into the playoffs, last three races of the year at the Gold Coast, Sandown, and then ending with the grand final on the streets of Adelaide.
Kobe, well, I told you when I came into the stream after you guys wrapped up Grid Tonight, it took every ounce of restraint that I had not to crash the stream and start getting into it with Jackson, especially when I saw his Padres hat when he brought up the Major League Baseball comparison. And of course, my Phillies ended up blowing the division series to the Mets, and condolences to Jackson as well and his Padres losing the Dodgers. But it's just like it reminds me of what's happened in Major League Baseball, what has happened in NASCAR, and what I fear is going to happen here in Supercars, where regular season performance is just going to matter less and less, and it's going to be about getting hot at the right time when it comes to winning a championship. And I suppose there's an argument to be made that you have to do that. You have to be able to perform when it matters most. But I just feel like motorsports is simply too chaotic and, kind of an apples and oranges sort of comparison when you try to compare it to stick and ball team sports, where you only have two teams playing on the same field or court or rink or whatever at once. We saw it. We've seen it in NASCAR, all the time, where AJ Allmendinger today when he was battling Joey Logano, trying to pass him for position. AJ's not in the playoffs. AJ's not even full time this year. He will be next year. We'll see how that season goes for him. But it's a situation where you have somebody completely unrelated to the playoff situation impacting a playoff driver in Joey Logano and what his chances of moving on are going to be. And also just an interesting stat that one of my friends just passed along to me. When it comes to Joey Logano, he was taken out on the final lap of the Richmond race. That would have been 5 playoff points if Austin Dillon hadn't spun him out there in the last corner. He ends up missing the round of 8 by 4 points. So again, just proof, I guess, that you could say every point matters, every moment of the regular season matters, but it still leaves the door open for drivers who have such a dominant season. Like, perhaps you could say Kyle Larson had, is probably the most recent example of somebody winning double-digit races in a single year with 10 wins. Fortunately, Larson made Phoenix one of those races and went on to win the championship anyway, but it leaves the door open where you could have, like the year before, Kevin Harvick winning 9 races and not even making the championship 4 because he had a situation in the round of 8 where he just couldn't get over the hump here. So again, I suppose I should refrain full judgment until we actually see it in action. Supercars, again, admittedly is not a series that I follow as closely as I do the top 3 divisions in NASCAR over here in the States. But just the idea of introducing a playoff system in a sport as chaotic as motorsports and in an individual sport, not in the sense that there aren't teams that support these drivers and mechanics that build these cars and everything. I'm talking about the drivers' championship being an individual championship where we look at these drivers as individuals, not as these teams and franchises like we do in stick and ball sports. And you have everybody competing on the same playing field one weekend. I don't know. It's just, it gives me a lot of hesitation. And I think it's given the fans a lot of hesitation to the idea of embracing a system like this. I think you only need to look at the reaction from a lot of Supercars fans when this system was announced and introduced this weekend. Fans haven't been a fan of what they've seen over in NASCAR, and they're not a fan of it coming over to their series in the world of Supercars. So again, well, I'll leave it there, Kobe. I'll leave it for you and Matt and Josh to discuss on Grid Tonight, since you guys cover that series a little bit more regularly than I do. But just I have to say, from kind of an outsider's perspective, as somebody that's not a fan of playoff system in any form of motorsports, much less one as chaotic as NASCAR, and given all the comparisons that get made between supercars and NASCAR all the time, people say it's kind of Australia's version of what we do in the stock car racing world. I don't know, just not a fan on principle of the idea of bringing a system that says right in the press release that it takes inspiration from what NASCAR has done with their playoff system, even though it's not going to be exactly the same. Still not a fan of it. Still would prefer a straight up full season championship battle. Whoever has the most points at the end of the year, they're the champions. What a radical, novel concept, right? If you have the most points at the end of the year, you should be considered the champion of the season because you were the best all throughout the season. That's my opinion.